In the last video, we created the outlines for the basic shapes and we put down the color palette for our painting. In this video, we will continue to fill out the painting with base colors and fill in the gray areas with the colors based on painting. So let's hop on into Photoshop. And this is the image that we have from last time, or at least that I have. You see all the colors are dabbed that I might need in the painting. We have various layers, 4 layers for the painting, one for the sky, clouds, the mountains, and then the foreground called monastery. We have an outlines layer, and we have the original image, which is right now hidden, so I'll turn it on. So the original image is underneath. I will hide it again. And then on the bottom layer we have the gray layer or the background layer, and most of the image is still gray. So the goal of today's video is to fill out the image with base colors and try to cover all the gray area that you see on the bottom layer with color. Okay, to do that you might use second monitor to have your reference image up as a on the side. If you don't have a second monitor, you can turn on the original image underneath your painting, and it's with it on, it's kind of hard to see which parts of the painting you have already filled in and which you haven't, so you may have to turn it on and off to check what's still gray. But I would recommend having a second monitor or having some visual reference for your original image. And if you want to, you can download some software to display your second image. In my case, I use a free software called hues, and basically it creates a window, a borderless window that you can have your image in, and you can drag it around. This is I'm dragging it in my first monitor, but of course it gets in the way, so for reference I will drag it to the side to my second monitor, which you cannot see, but I can see it to my side. And that's a reference for like what the painting is, and you should be using that to try to replicate it instead of copying from the reference image in your original layer in Photoshop. But since this is a beginner's tutorial, it's okay if you turn on the original image and study it right underneath your outline layer and copy the colors from there. As you're learning, you will develop skills that you don't need to do that in the future, but for now it's okay. Okay, so let's move our outlines layer all the way to the top, so it's above everything. And the goal now is to fill in all the outlines with the colors from below, from the painting below. So my clouds are gonna be like white and gray, and my sky is gonna be blue. I'm gonna start with the sky, so I'm gonna turn off all of the other layers. I will turn off monastery, mountains, and clouds. And if I turn off my original layer, you can see the only thing I have up in the sky are these patches of blue. So I already know at what altitude or what height in the painting what color the sky is. Like at the horizon, it's really light blue, and the higher you get, the darker the blue gets. So I'm just gonna grab those colors and make sure I am in the sky layer. I'm going to sample the dab of paint that I put near the horizon, which is the baby blue, the very light, and I'm just gonna make sort of like a horizontal band around the horizon. Now it's okay if you go through into the mountains, because we're gonna erase that part anyway. Now I'm gonna sample higher up where it's kind of like medium blue and fill in all the parts which are where the sky is visible, like between the clouds uh, at that horizontal altitude. So the sky is gonna be about the same color at that height. And then I'm gonna sample the next one, which is like the medium blue, put a strip of that above the lighter color. And we are not blending yet, so you're gonna have banding in there, and that's okay. And finally, I'm gonna get the dark blue, and I'll try to get all of the areas which are like supposed to be the pure sky color. If your brush is blending and not doing like what my brush is doing, meaning that if your brush is showing patterns or smears, or if it's blending, you can modify it up in the top. Um, make sure that in the inkwell you have load solid colors only checked, and that you have wetness all the way down to 0%, and then your brush is going to be solid and it's not going to blend with anything. And that's what we need for this step of the painting. Okay, so looks like my sky is about done. Now I'm gonna turn on my clouds layer, and for this I may need to have the original layer turned on as well, because I'm gonna try to fill in the clouds now. I will turn off the sky layer because I'm covering up a little bit of the clouds. And now in my clouds layer, I will sample the original image and paint into the clouds layer. So for that, you need to make sure that sample all layers is checked up at the top here. And then I can grab color from the cloud and paint it in, paint in the white, bright whites, paint in the grays, and just try to fill it all in. And it doesn't matter if you're like perfect at this point. We're just gonna put some we're just trying to fill in the base colors. We will be blending it all later. So this top cloud is more grayish. I'm gonna put some of that color up there. And this time I'm kind of trying to keep within the bounds as much as possible. I have just reduced the size of my brush a little bit. And at this point I'm not really needing to use the second monitor to see my reference image yet. I'm just using the original image that I have saved in the layer below. If you make a mistake, just undo, no worries. Okay, so the best way to do this is try to find areas of similar color and try to simplify. Like, I know the original image is all blended and looks very nice, the clouds look fluffy. Right now we are not blending it, so we're just filling in the area, and that's what you need to do. You don't have to worry about the blending yet. And if you don't know like what you have filled in already and what's the original image, just unclick the original image, like make it invisible, and you see, okay, I'm missing a whole bunch of stuff in the cloud over here, so I'm gonna fill that in. So this area needs to be filled in, and so on. And this is a little bit time consuming, so I'm just gonna speed up the video and come back to you when I'm done. this is about as much as I want to get filled into the clouds layer. You see there are still gaps remaining, but we don't need to fill in every little area. We're gonna move on to the mountains layer now, so I'll turn on the mountains. I don't need the clouds layer on, and I will continue to fill in the areas of solid color. Try to find like shapes, triangles, patterns of solid color and fill them in from the original image. I'm gonna speed it up again because this is again time consuming. When I was doing the mountains, I made a mistake and I started putting colors into a different layer, the monastery layer. If that happens to you, don't worry about it. You can simply make a selection. You can use the lasso tool or the polygonal lasso tool. So in my case, I'll make a selection of the foreground. So the layer which I want to belong to the monastery, and that's all the way to here, and I'll cut that with Ctrl X and click on the monastery layer and paste that with Ctrl V. I should have pasted it in place, but that's okay. Here we go. So now it's in the correct layer. Well, actually it created an empty layer above it, but I can combine it with the monastery layer by pushing Ctrl E, and that merges the layer down to the monastery layer. So now the monastery layer has these foreground colors, and the mountains layer has these colors of the valley and the mountains. So I still have some gaps. I'm gonna continue to fill in a lot of those gaps, and I will speed that up, and I'll see you shortly. Okay, so my mountains layer is filled in this much, and I think that's enough. I'm gonna continue the same process now with the monastery layer. So I'll turn that on. I will turn off my mountains layer, and I'll try to fill this in a little bit more. Again, I'll speed it up. Okay, so after filling in my base colors, this is the kind of picture I get. It's like a patchwork of pretty much all the colors that I want to use in the painting. So for now, we've been working with training wheels on. We've been using the original image as a layer that we sample from and that we outline from. And from now on, we will take the training wheels away and use this as our base image with all the colors that we need, and only use the original image in our external reference window, like the one I'm using here, QRef. QRef, I will put a download link in the video description so you can grab it if you want. But I'm gonna have this image on the side in my second window, and I'm gonna be able to look at it and paint based on that image. So from now on, we will be doing the actual artwork. Up till now, we've been doing more like tracing and color matching and color sampling. Okay, so see you in the next video.